Hello and welcome to another World of Warships video. This time we are looking at the Japanese Tier 4 battleship, the Myogi. And I call it a battleship, but it's actually a battle cruiser. Which is that, well, it's essentially a ship with the guns of a battleship, but designed to kind of go the speed of a cruiser, and to do that it sacrifices a lot of armour. They were kind of designed basically to hunt down and destroy enemy armoured cruisers, and also destroy light cruisers and, scout cruisers, protected cruisers, whatever, and also scout for the main battle fleet. And when a battle was joined between two lines of battleships, they were expected to fight alongside the battleships and destroy the enemy battleships. Of course, that last job of theirs they didn't actually do very well at. You just have to look at the Battle of Jutland, where especially the British battle cruisers were exploding, well, not quite at the drop of a hat, but exploded a lot. But anyway, this is the Myogi. It's a paper ship. The Japanese essentially designed it, well, it was kind of their first design at a battle cruiser, but instead of building this, they decided to go with the, Congo class, which was a British design that they modified slightly to suit their own needs. It was based on the British Lion class battle cruiser. And, most people don't really like this battleship. There are kind of a few reasons why, and we'll go through them. Kind of the first obvious one that people notice is when you upgrade from the Kawachi to the Myogi, you actually lose half your guns. The Kawachi had 12 guns, of which only 8 were on the broadside, whereas the Myogi gets 6. Once you upgrade the guns, though, they do get bigger. It ends up with 6 356mm guns, which do a significant amount more damage and also have better armour penetration than the Kawachi's 12-inch guns. But on the other hand, they're also a lot less accurate than the Kawachi. So it's just a case of you're firing less shots, and they're less likely to hit. But when they do hit, they can do a lot of damage. Of course, the penetration's a bit of a double-edged sword, since it also makes it more likely to over-penetrate an enemy ship, and essentially punch straight through one side and out the other without doing a lot of damage. Kind of the other thing to note about the guns on the Myogi is that it has a considerable range advantage over the Kawachi. Essentially, the Myogi's got a 15km range, while the Kawachi's got a 10km range, which means you can start shooting a lot earlier in the Myogi, and although at 15km you're not really going to hit much, you might get lucky occasionally. The Myogi's got a decent secondary armament, but there's nothing really to comment about there. The odd thing about this is that it's actually got no anti-aircraft guns at all. And I mean, it's at tier 4, so it does go up against aircraft carriers quite a bit. And there's nothing you can do to actually defend yourself against enemy aircrafts. I mean, other than dodging and making life difficult for them, you can't actually shoot anything down. The big advantage that the Myogi has over the Kawachi, though, is in terms of its speed and manoeuvrability as well. 32 knots is pretty impressive speed for any battleship, and its turning radius and rate of shift time are pretty good. They allow you to, about 15km range, you can start dodging enemy battleships' attacks if you see them coming, and you can also dodge torpedoes fairly easily. But yes, and I'm also going to say that a lot of people think it's weird that this ship, it has 3 turrets, 1 at the front, 2 at the back. But that's actually kind of a design feature, because, as I said, these ships, they were intended for scouting, and basically when they encountered the enemy battle fleet, they were supposed to turn around and run away and draw the enemy battle fleet back towards the Japanese main battleships. And for that, it's actually better to have your main firepower pointing backwards rather than forwards. And I mean, if they aren't fighting battleships, but they're fighting, armoured cruisers or, other smaller ships in them, they can turn broadside on, no worries. Whereas running away from battleships, you want to present a very small target to the enemy while maximising your firepower, and in this case also running away from them. So it kind of makes sense to put your guns on the back rather than the front. And yes, the Myogi's not really a bad ship. Like, the speed in particular allows you to control the distance of the engagements. So, especially when fighting Kawachis, they really shouldn't stand a chance with you, but most people prefer the Kawachi over the Myogi. Of course, the thing is, at tier 5 you get the Congo, which gets a 20km range, which means that controlling the range of engagements doesn't really mean that much unless you're in a tier 4 game. But anyway, I'll show you a game. This match I'm going to show you, it's also on, well, a new map. It's just an open ocean one, and I actually really enjoy this map. At first I kind of thought it would be kind of a bit bland, but I actually find it really fun because instead of positioning yourself in terms of islands and channels and stuff, you're actually positioning yourself to kind of take advantage of your teammates and their position, and you're trying to concentrate your team's firepower while avoiding the enemy's firepower. And I find it especially fun in battleships, where it's all about angling your ship and, like I said, supporting your team, and also destroyers and light cruisers, where you're acting in a more scouting role and essentially trying to get as close to the enemy as you can without being spotted or without coming in effective range of the enemy's guns, just so that your battleships are in the back and your aircraft carriers know where the enemy are and they can effectively counter the enemy. And anyway, the first thing I do in this map is I'm trying to head over to meet up with my friendly battleships who spawn on the other side of the map. Unfortunately, the speed allows me to do so. And even better, we've spotted a St. Louis at extremely long range, but I fire a broadside at it. And you can see how long it takes the shells to get there. I've got one hit. And that's what's talking about the accuracy. Those 6 guns, 6 shots, it's actually kind of lucky to get one hit on there. You saw the spread of the shells falling in the water there. But one hit, it's pretty alright for maximum range. And that battleship's actually outside of our range, so we're going to have to go back and shoot at the St. Louis again. And it can be very difficult to see. I think a destroyer somewhere between me and the St. Louis has popped up a smoke screen, which is why we kind of can't see anything. But we had a guess. Oh, and we got 2 more shots and actually managed to destroy its engine there. So that was really lucky. But it looks like the main fight's going to be happening in front of us, where we've got 2 of our battleships going up against one of the enemy and some cruisers. So I'll add my firepower to this fight in the north here, or, well, not to the north, in front of me. And I see this enemy Kuma class cruiser, and I'm thinking that is the easiest one for me to take out quickly and help even this fight on our odds. So fire my broadside, and you also saw me there try and dodge some torpedoes, but they ran out of steam before they got to me. And it looks like those shells all missed, and I didn't really watch where they fell, so not that I can see anything anyway. So just kind of guessing here. The Kuma's quite fast, so we aim a fair way in front of it, and we're just trying to angle our ship to that point there where our rear turrets are also able to bear on the Kuma, but we're not really pointing our ship directly at it, or broadside onto it. And there goes our shells, and they're looking good. And it's dead. I think my team actually hit that a lot before I did, because I'm pretty sure I only saw 1500 damage pop up, but a kill's a kill and I'm quite happy to take it. Now we found an enemy Myogi, which has basically been surrounded by my team. Maybe you prefer, instead of being surrounded, it's kind of driven straight into the middle of my allies here. I'm just waiting to reload, and at this range I'm pretty confident these shells will hit that battleship. And, well, 50%, 3 shells hit, and you see it's only got a tiny sliver of health left. So I switched my fire to this destroyer, which has been charging in at me, and I'm expecting it to fire torpedoes at me any minute, assuming that that Myogi will be dead before I can reload anyway. And it does take time to bring these turrets around, so it's better to aim well beforehand. My secondary guns have opened up, but I'm turning away from it because I'm expecting torpedoes to be in the water. But I have to slow my turn to bring my guns to bear. I only fired my rear 2 turrets because I wanted to keep turning away from the destroyer to make it harder for its torpedoes to reach me, which means that my front guns couldn't bear on the target. But, well, that destroyer was killed by my ally, and it looks like we've pretty much won the fight on this side. Well, it's still... no, it's not really going. The enemy's won the other side, but we've still got a few ships over there fighting, so hopefully they'll delay long enough for myself and the other battleships to go there and help. I also saw that destroyer's advance on me and how it caused me to turn away. It's actually put me a very long way away from my battleships that I was trying to join up with to be a united force with. Well, they're now decent 11 or 12 k's north of me. And I've just got this little cruiser here for my... it's my only support, I should say. So I decided to turn a bit to the north just to try and get a bit closer to my battleships, because it looks to me like at least one of them is already engaging an enemy battleship, where you can see the shells going in there. And so far that guy that they're shooting at is out of my maximum range, so I can't really help my team at the moment. Oh. Okay, that was a little skip there. And we see a smoke screen as well, so we know there's an enemy destroyer supporting that battleship, which means we're going to want to keep our distance, so we'll give us a destroy there briefly. Well, the destroyer's in range and the battleship's not quite, so we'll fire our front turret at the enemy destroyer. And then I essentially decide to change my course a bit here, because the way I was going to bump into that destroyer pretty quickly, whereas if I head on this course, essentially aiming to pass the enemy on the right, it'll keep me further away from that destroyer. At least that was the plan, but the destroyer can turn quicker than me, so it ruined it. And unfortunately it means I'm going to have to wait a while before my rear guns can come into action, because they were facing the other direction. I get one hit on the battleship, but it only does 500 damage, which is very unlucky actually. It can hit pretty well midships, but sometimes you just are unlucky. Okay, the rear guns are lined up. There they go. I was actually looking for that destroyer, but it seems to have gone. But there's its torpedoes. And unfortunately they run out of steam just before they get to me, and I'm able to dodge the second wave. But again, that turn's actually put my rear guns to a position where they can't fire at the enemy. But my forward guns can, so I fire 2 shots and 261 damage. It's just not going well for me at the moment. And there go my rear guns. That's better, 2000 damage. Still not fantastic, but at least it contributed something. And for now we're just going to bat away at this, well, it's a Congo class battlecruiser. And this is pretty much, well, I'd consider this the ideal range to engage the Congo at. I'm usually pretty sure at least one of my shells will hit in every salvo. And it's also a range where I can kind of penetrate its armor, or at least I think I can at this range. And so I can do massive damage if I actually manage to hit the thing. Okay, front guns are ready, and we fire. And well, I decided that guy's going to die. Well, I got one hit on it, but I didn't kill it. And I decided to focus on this enemy Omaha instead, which is basically right in front of me. It could actually fire torpedoes at me right now and do a lot of hurt to me. Fire my rear guns, and we get 2 hits, does about 3000 damage there, which, it's alright. It wasn't a very well aimed shot actually by the looks of it. Another 1000 damage there. We've managed to dodge its torpedoes, not through any skill of our own, just because we were turning quite a bit at the start of this engagement. Actually, we still are turning quite hard, just to keep our guns lined up on this target here. More torpedoes in the water. These ones from torpedo bombers, and I wasn't paying attention when they were coming in, so I wasn't able to effectively dodge them. And I took one torpedo, which is not, that could have been much worse, but I got lucky there. And again, my shells are just not quite doing the damage to this Omaha that I expect they would. And, well, my allies destroy it for me. And is that the same Congo from earlier? I think it is. Essentially, I turned away from it because I assumed it was going to die, and it survived for that long. And here's more torpedoes coming straight at me. I'm guessing from that Omaha I killed.
We're home below the water line.
And I'm now
quickly.
flooding, and it's 50 seconds until I can repair again. And this is the situation where battleships really hate torpedoes. Because I'm just going to have to sit here and take a lot of flooding damage for a long time. And there's nothing I can do about it. But it's my fault because I wasn't really paying attention to torpedoes. But the only enemy ship that's left is this aircraft carrier, and you just saw me do an 11,000 damage hit to it. Essentially my 356mm shell just punched straight through its armour and exploded somewhere inside the citadel. Which is exactly what you want to happen when you're firing armour-piercing shells at people. And aircraft carriers, other than the Langley, are actually quite fast, so you can even see that even though I can do quite a lot of, you know, this is a fast ship I'm in at the moment, the aircraft carrier is still pulling away from me. Partly that's because I was flooding, which means I'm taking on water and I'm going a lot slower than I could have. But it's only once I kind of hit, oh, well, it's dead, but it was still pulling away from me, and I was going 25 knots and accelerating. But that's kind of the advantages of the thing, like you can chase down aircraft carriers in this thing, whereas in most other battleships they will actually pull away from you. You saw there I got 21 hits and one of them Citadel hit. I actually didn't do that well in my team, but the enemy battleships are Congos, which are just far better than the Myogi. It's basically just a Myogi with more range, more guns, better accuracy, and I think they're also more manoeuvrable. You see, they only did 36,000 damage, which it's alright. It's a little bit more than I received there. No, it's not. It's a little bit less than I received, which is a bit of a pain. But as I said in my last video, I'm just not that good at battleships. Now, I got a bit unlucky there, and my damage rolls kept coming up quite low. Anyway, that is the Myogi, the first battlecruiser you'll encounter in-game. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all next time.